Hello and welcome back to the Be Elite podcast, where we dive into deep discussions, explore some uncharted realms, and occasionally wander off the beaten path. I'm your host, Ben Allgaier, here to guide us through yet another untapped territory of thought and innovation, unpacking what it means to be elite. Our guest today is Kent Eagleburger, a Kansas City native who began his entrepreneurial journey with a successful lawn care business in 2012 that he later sold. Kent would then transition to manufacturing sales until 2020, when he founded a private lending company. Kent has been an active real estate investor in Missouri and Arkansas for more than 15 years and has since diversified his portfolio in energy and agriculture, including owning a cattle business. Married since 2009 and a father of 3 boys, he combines family life with a passion for travel and continuous business innovation. Kent, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ben.
So we typically start off with our pivot point. It's a part in the show where, most entrepreneurs have a decision or series of decisions that kind of alter the trajectory of their lives and their businesses. And it seems like you have had a couple of those. You kind of started in the world of building your own business, then went into manufacturing sales, and eventually moved over to what you're doing now and lending money. So what was kind of the thought process, or how did that transition even come up? I mean, you can start with the lawn care company if you want, or just go straight into manufacturing sales and then deciding to become a lender, or, building the lending company that you have.
I would say, I guess start at the beginning, the lawn care deal. I had really good parents, and they didn't give me much. I guess they didn't spoil me. And so I was like 12, and my dad said, "Hey, what are you going to drive when you get 16? Or you are going to drive when you get 16, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to drive." And he said, "Well, I'm not going to buy a car, so you better get to work." So I said, "Oh, fair enough." So I did it. My grandpa bought me my first, have you ever seen Forrest Gump and his lawnmower?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a John Deere, but it looked like that. And so in exchange, my grandpa bought me that. And in exchange, I painted his house that summer. And so I think I was 12. And so, yeah, I kind of got started there. So that was a big deal. And then, went to school, college, and started selling capital equipment for a Japanese company to manufacturing companies. So to oil and gas, aerospace guys. Got to travel a lot and got to see a lot, got to meet a lot of really neat people. And then, Megan and I got married in 2009. I was 22 then, and I started at the Japanese company at 20. And I would say that during the time that I got really lucky, during 2008 and 2009, I didn't have anything to lose. And the market got hammered in real estate, but I didn't affect me because I had nothing to lose. And I would take commission checks and buy rental properties in, save the commission checks up and then buy rental properties in Lee Summit, mainly, because that's what I knew. And then a little bit in Northwest Arkansas, Bentonville area. So that was
20 years old at the time.
Probably 22, 23, 24, early 20s. But so I got that going, and I still worked my full job, would, travel a lot, put in a lot of hours, but it was just Megan and me. And so I suppose the next pivot point would be when I, left that business full time. And actually I still have a handful of clients that I really enjoy dealing with. So I just went 1099. But I like it, I kind of bought my freedom on that deal to where I could pivot, and I didn't need the corporate job to live my current lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so, the rentals in 2009 through 12, 13, 14 were a really good investment. I could get a 7 cap, 12% cash on cash. But then as the market corrected, valuations of those homes went up. and rent did not follow. And so my yield was stagnant. And, I just wasn't going to buy a single family in Jackson County, Missouri for a 5 cap.
Yeah.
And, still won't. So,
Sure.
So I went to a friend of mine and like a mentor of mine. And I said, hey, what do you do with your money? And he said, I'm investing them in notes and, we're getting 12%. I said, okay, sounds good. I'll try it. So I tried that passively. I think my first note I invested in was about 2015.
So for people that don't understand that, explain what that means.
That means that the investor puts up their capital. Let's say it's $200,000 for a guy like Ben to utilize that money, buy a distressed home, fix it up, and resell it for a profit. And so, in other words, we're loaning money to folks like Ben, and then they return it at the end of, let's say, 6 months, with the principal plus a 12% return annualized. So so we invest in the paper on that, just so it's a mortgage. It's a first mortgage.
Yep.
So anyway, so I started doing that, and then during 2020, Boeing shut down the 737 for 2 years, and oil and gas went negative $27.
Yep.
And so Tulsa was dead, Sedgwick County, Wichita was dead. So I said, you know what? I got 3 little boys. I don't need to travel all over anymore. And so we started the lending business. And that long answer to, I didn't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. You did. Yeah. I mean, we kind of like to see the path from where you started to how you got to where you are. And it makes sense. You bought rentals early on, which I wish I would have done that when I was 20 and 21 and 22 years old, but I didn't. I jacked around in college and spent a bunch of money doing stupid stuff like hanging out at bars.
Yeah, I will say, I've been, super blessed, if you will. I was born into a really good family that, not affluent per se. We were fine, middle class, but, solid family, mom and a dad, kids. And then I've had really good mentors, not from anything that I did, but just really good people that helped me young. And so, there's a definite, to your point, there's a big deal to the time value of money. $1 million when you're 30 looks way better than 10 when you're 60.
Yeah.
And that's real. And so, if you just have to get a few decisions right early, and life really becomes pretty simple. It's not easy ever, but it's simple.
It's a lot simpler when you have a check that hits your mailbox every month and you really don't have to think too much about it, right?
Yeah, there's a little more to it than that. Yeah.
Well, to make it as simplistic as possible. Yeah, that having the passive income to where that, I'm going to be able to make my mortgage payment this month on my house because I have passive income that's going to be there every month for the rest of however long I own this asset. That's all. Yeah. Which, again, something I wish I would have done a hell of a lot longer or a hell of a lot sooner. Because, it feels like you're almost behind the 8 ball when you get to 30 and you're like, oh, shit, I only have a couple of assets. But, again, a lot of people that we know and that we talk to try to build that machine that kicks off cash to where they have the ability to go and do things that they want to do and continue to live the lifestyle that they have. So seeing your life and knowing a little bit about your backstory, you seem to, from the outside, you kind of look like a guy who whatever you touch, it kind of turns to gold. And a lot of people that we interview on this podcast kind of have that same feel, right? So we like to humanize people and help others understand that life isn't always ice cream, right? Like there's struggles along the way, and there's failures that we make to get to where we are. So do you, looking back on your life, has there ever been moments that you look at and go, damn, that was a huge failure, but it kind of propelled me to where I'm at, learning from the massive failure that I had. It doesn't have to be massive, but learning from whatever failure you may have come across.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You should interview Miss Megan next. She'll tell you all of it. and there's multitudes. As silly as this is so in high school, I wrestled.
Okay.
And there's nothing else a 5'7" kid could do at a big school. So I wasn't playing football or basketball. I wouldn't have made the team. But my junior year, I actually stumbled in and outkicked my coverage and ended up getting second at state. My junior. Okay, so fast forward to my senior year, I get ranked. And I was always very average, but I had like a little success, and so I started getting ranked and blah blah blah. And I didn't even make it. I didn't qualify the next year, and it was by one match at districts or regionals or whatever you go to state. And I'll never forget it, man. To this day I can see I was winning by one with like 3 seconds left, and I did the biggest punk move you ever could. I looked up at the clock, and as I'm looking up, this kid, which I'm so glad good for him. I'm glad he did it. He took me down, and I remember like my looking up at, it said 2 seconds, 1 second, and my hand hit, and he took me down like at the buzzer beater. It gets me.
Oh,
and so that was a huge failure. Actually, at the time, you're an 17, 18-year-old kid.
It's a big deal.
Oh, yeah, it was devastating. And it was my fault. I did something wrong. I had overachieved one year and then dramatically underachieved the next year. Oh. And then, I don't know, maybe more recently in business, there's been a couple occasions where I hit a single, but I didn't have the gumption or the conviction to turn it into a triple. And, I guess what a couple instances maybe come to mind is during 08 and 09 and 10, we bought some houses, but, embarrassingly, a lot of it was with cash. I was scared to lever.
Really?
With good leverage. But, you turn on the news and, the American dream's dead and single family housing is gone forever.
Yep.
The U.S. economy may never return. And so we did some stuff. I hit a single, right?
Yeah.
I could have hit a triple.
Yeah.
And then most recently, March of 2020, March, April, May, COVID, the world's going to end. Nobody's ever going to use oil and gas again. Nobody's going to fly again. Nobody's going to take a train again. Nobody's going to drive again. Nobody's ever going to buy a Suburban again.
Yep.
And I was buying Exxon at 37, 38, 39, sub 40.
Yep.
And I did not back the truck up like I should have. And had I, it would have been a fundamental change. It was a single, we bought a little bit. Fine.
Yep.
Fast forward 100. Yeah. So all the while, then you read Buffett's annual report and he's hammering oxy the whole time, like Buffett would. And then here I am just nibbling like a little mouse, too scared to, really get after it. So,
yeah.
I would say some of the failures have just been like lack of conviction and lack of gumption to actually make a play.
Yeah, but there's a balance obviously that comes into play there, right? I mean, you can't sacrifice the livelihood of your family. I think that's something that we talk about this quite a bit in our office and even here on this platform of like the idea of burning the boats. Like there's a certain point in people's lives where they can burn the boats, right? I mean, somebody like me who doesn't have kids, isn't married, like I have more of an opportunity to burn the boats and go all in on something than somebody who has a family and has to take care of that family, right? I think that another point that comes out of that, it's super hard to trust anything that comes, like anything that's on the media, right? What's up, Luke?
Oh, yeah. That's it. Hey, I'll be done in a minute.
Was she with you this morning while you guys were shoveling snow?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Was that one of them? Yeah.
Yeah.
You have three of them. I can't tell them apart when they're wearing hats.
Yeah, that's the big one. Yeah. So, but no, you're right. And on the media stuff, it's a lot of it's discernment, and discernment is a gift, and it's a talent, or however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
Like Proverbs in the Bible, right? Like Solomon, the wisest man to ever live, had.
Yep.
It says he had a bunch of discernment, which means to filter through what you're hearing and pick out what is the truth.
Yep. How do you do that?
And I think it's kind of a knack or a gift or a skill that you can improve on. and to keep your head while everybody else is fearful or greedy, right? Like, what if it's like, be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. So if you can discern, keep your head, and not buy into all the garbage.
And there's so much noise out there, right? Good Lord. There's so much out there that you see on whether it's social media or TV or whatever. There's so much noise that you have to filter through. And there's fundamental principles of everything that we do, and there's cycles of everything that in the market, in real estate, and all of these things. There's predictable patterns that you can pick out, but not everything, but most of the stuff that we see tries to scare us away from doing anything.
Yeah, but you guys have done a good job in staying principled. Like for us, buying real estate, I would have loved to continue to buy residential real estate at a 7 cap and put a little leverage and get 12 on the cash on cash. But that model changed. And so that's why we pivoted to lending. I've seen you guys do a really good job of the market pivoting and you pivoting with it.
Yeah, and that's not something that, like you said, it's something that takes skill and time and repetitions to master that kind of thing. It's not just something where newbie investor hops into the marketplace and they can figure out how to pivot quickly. Like you have to go through the repetitions, you have to go through the time. And I think that's something that Todd especially has been able to help guide our business through, having seen the multiple cycles and having you there as well to help understand and filter through all the noise that comes through every day. You two do a great job of powwowing and figuring that stuff out. So I guess that kind of leads to some of the next questions that I have. So on the real estate side, you've seen the good, you've seen the bad of investors from a lending perspective. For somebody getting into the space, like somebody that's starting in real estate investing, or somebody that wants to start flipping houses, maybe they're transitioning away from being a wholesaler, what kind of advice would you give to somebody that is looking for maybe a lender or looking to do their first deal, but they really don't understand the market dynamics, and you have a different perspective on things than most of us do, because you're rubbing elbows with some big dogs that understand the lending world and understand the real estate market from the backside of it, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. So the question is, what should they have prepared, and what should they have before they come to a lender? Is that the deal?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think that organization and a clean, clear business plan that you could explain to a kid that went to public school like me, right? Don't have if the house is clearly worth $300,000, don't put an ARV of $450,000.
Yeah.
Have a reasonable plan and a clear path from funding to payoff.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. And then, like, you've seen the good and the bad of people investing, right? What are some of the things that you advise people to stay away from as far as buying properties if they're new into the business? I know that we don't buy a lot of big ticket, high price properties just because of the massive risk that's associated with it. Are there some other things that you look for on the lending side of things to kind of stay away from?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like you guys do a really good job of staying in the middle of the bell curve.
Yeah.
And you'll leave the tails alone. So leave the left tail alone with, properties that you wouldn't go to after dark.
Yeah.
And then leave the right tail alone, stay out of, million plus neighborhoods. You do a good job, and we're looking for people that do a good job of giving the market what it wants without a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And so right now, I think the market wants, 250 to 375 houses, 3-bed, 2-baths in B and C class neighborhoods.
Yep.
I think, the lack of new supply for nice, middle of the bell curve housing, is in short supply. And so you guys are given, the market will tell you what it wants. And you can sit there and argue with the market, but the market will win. And so in Kansas City anyway, it wants, the market is telling everybody, hey, listen, we want nice B and C class neighborhoods, 3-bed, 2 baths, two, I mean, you tell me maybe a little more precisely, but 250 to 375.
Yeah, it's about right. But I mean, in this market, yeah, for sure. And I think that applies to a lot of the Midwest markets that we're in. And you've done a good job of helping us kind of weed through those. So a good lender is going to be able to help you figure out, hey, this may not be the right opportunity to kind of chase down. Like I remember that building that we almost bought that we just talked about on social media. There was this, just for anybody who doesn't, anybody who's listening, there was this big building. It was an old police station, and me and my business partner were all hands on deck on this thing. It was in foreclosure. It was 24,000 square feet, or was it 12,000 square feet? It was massive, but
looked like a spaceship.
It did. It was an old police station that they converted into something else, and it needed, oh God, by the time we were done, it was going to need $700,000 worth of work to it. But we had these awesome ideas. We were going to put a golf simulator, a gym. We were going to turn it into these office spaces for us, and then rent out the other spaces, build a coffee shop in there. Problem was that we didn't really even stop to think twice about was the area. It was in Grandview, which, not in Kansas City. Grandview is not really growing much, especially around where this building was. So Kent took a step back and said, hey guys, is this really the opportunity that we're going to go after right now? Are we really going to put this much money and this much time into something that kind of has an unknown back end and an unknown exit strategy? So you helped us through that. From a lender's perspective, I mean, that was one of the best deals that we never did, right?
Yeah, that's right. And, frankly, I wouldn't have even looked at it if it wasn't you guys. I mean, you guys have proven yourself. Guess how many deals you paid us off on?
I don't know.
Guess. Come on.
50, 100? I don't know.
Like 65.
Okay.
So you guys have successfully brought 65 projects from funding to payoff. And so, yeah, I thought if anybody can do it, it's these guys. But yeah, the problem was it was just such a unique property in a time where I thought rates were going to continue to go up. And it's just, to your point, it's a lot of capital and time to dump into a property when the opportunity cost was so high.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a good point. There is a time, going back to what you said in the beginning, there is a time to go after those home runs. But there's also something to be said about just racking up singles. You hit 4 singles in a row, you still get a run. And
yeah, but you don't sound cool on a podcast, Ben.
Yeah, but who cares? You do sound cool on a podcast because you're the guy who has a bunch of rental properties that gets to live the life that he wants to live because he's played the slow and steady race. I mean, you could talk to those guys on the podcast that made millions and millions and millions of dollars doing something crazy, but how many people are actually going to relate to that? Not very many, because most people don't ever have that opportunity, one. And number two, if they did have the opportunity, most people don't take it and don't act or do anything at all.
Well, and I will say real estate, the thing I always liked about real estate is the ability to build wealth for normal people.
Yeah.
In other words, like, I really don't have a special skill. No, I really don't. I mean, you think about this. You got friends that are surgeons. They've got a special skill that they can monetize and become extremely wealthy. Friends that are attorneys, they can monetize a special skill. It's a great avenue for people that are diligent and disciplined and do the tortoise and the hare deal to where, hey, let's buy one rental a year for 10 years.
Yep.
Okay. It's not, you can build wealth that way. So yeah, that is the neat thing about real estate is to your point, anyone can build wealth, in real estate. And then the U.S. is unique in private property law. And, part of this too is, man, I just don't know people. The question's always compared to what? And I had a huge advantage of working at that Japanese company. I got to travel all over, the world early and see compared to what to not make it in the U.S. is criminal. I mean, not to disparage anybody, but there's a lot of like people in poverty that have cell phones.
Yeah, for sure.
And so yeah, compared to what, right? You go to Nicaragua or Taiwan or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's all of us, here locally, in the U.S. have been given a unique mechanism, which through real estate and private property law, you can build wealth, anybody, and normal people, just normal. Yeah.
And the problem is for most people that don't end up building wealth, or that look back and go, God, I really wish I would have done that a long time ago. It's the whole idea of delayed gratification, right? Because you sacrificed what you could have done with that money back when you're 20s for the life that you now have, and the life that you've built, because you had a bigger plan in place. Like you had this bigger picture idea of what you wanted to do. And I think that's something, I struggled with that for a long time. Like I was like, man, I want to go travel the world. I want to go hang out with people at bars. I want to go spend all my money. I want to drive the nicest car. Like that was my mentality back when I had my corporate job, and I was spending every freaking dollar that I brought in. It set me back. And now, we've built a decent sized business, but like it took a long time to realize, you know what, there is that time value of money, like we talked about in the beginning, and you can't get that time back. Like you have to start. You have to buy your first one, whether it's some rinky-dink property that you make a couple $100s off of, or you buy 10 in a year. You have to find a place to start and put your capital to work, and realize you have to sacrifice things to be able to live the life that you want later on. And I think a lot of people know that. It's just the idea of putting it into play is a lot harder to discipline yourself to do those kinds of things, right?
Yeah, life's simple. Yeah, but it's difficult to do that. But it really is simple. Get online and you look at an amortization schedule and put $1 million in when you're 30 at 12% return, and then go put $10 million when you're 60 at a 12% return. And it's not even close. So
no.
But yeah, you need good people around you, and that's what I was blessed with. I had great people around me. I remember, frankly, I had a big bunch of commission checks coming to me when I was 22, 21, 22, somewhere in there. And there was a guy that I said, I was scared. I sought out a guy who actually went to church with us, and good dude, and he was just a really good steward of money. Mm-hmm. So I said, hey man, can I take you to lunch? And I told him, I was like, dude, I got some money coming up. I'm legitimately scared of what to do with it. And he set me on the real estate path.
Nice.
Or, kind of encouraged me and helped me along that way. But yeah, there's a weight to it, and a heaviness to it. And it is a maturation process. You look at money, let's say, and people get it like lottery winners.
Mm-hmm.
To read about the statistically, they lose it.
Yeah.
Because they get it all in one shot. There's a maturation process that they missed.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
And so, frankly, that's what I'm doing now with my boys. What's it? Tuesday morning, I went from 8 to noon shoveling snow.
We were on FaceTime earlier, and Kent's showing me his boys going up to the door, knocking on the door, and going, "Hey, you got to go sell this deal." And he's got his what were you even driving in? I don't even know what that thing was.
Tractor.
Yeah, he's got his tractor out, and he's shoveling snow with his plow on the front of it. But he's teaching his kids, "Hey, you got to go to the door and sell this thing. I'm not going to sell it for you."
Yeah, that's right. Because someday they'll have, they won't be uber wealthy, but they'll have access to enough money that it could ruin them.
Yeah.
And I just refuse to be, the dad of a Hunter Biden who just has ruined his life.
Yeah.
Because he's too immature to handle a little capital.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's the character, right? So yeah, so yeah.
But that is when you say you don't have any skills that are like monetizable. Yeah, that may be true. You don't have a doctor's degree or a MD or some sort of an attorney degree. However, there is something to be said about the skill of being able to connect with people in the way that you do, in the way like that you got that first mentor when you went and talked to them and said, hey man, I really need some help. Like, show me where to put my money. Or any of the people that I mean, you have a litany of people that like love being around you. One of them is the guy sitting in the office right behind me. he loves just shooting the shit and having conversations with Kent because you're somebody who genuinely cares about the relationship. That is a skill that's not something that you can learn in a classroom like some of these other monetizable skills, right?
Yeah, maybe so. Feelings mutual, but I as well. But and I will say too, a lot of it is having the wherewithal and the and just going and asking somebody, hey, can I buy you lunch?
Yeah.
Go find somebody that's doing something that you would like to do.
Yeah.
Dude, people genuinely want to help.
Sure.
Go up to a guy or gal that's doing what you would like to do. Say, hey, listen, can I buy you lunch?
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you they'll say yes.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you whatever. That people love to help people.
People are too afraid to ask though, right? I mean, but
think about the cost of that.
I hear you.
Of not asking.
Yeah. You wouldn't have known what to do with your money.
No.
What would you have done with that? Well, yeah, what would you have done with that had you not had that advice?
I'm a redneck. I would have bought lifted diesel, so
A Raptor? Yeah.
No V6s. No, I would have bought a lifted diesel, but instead, I always drove used stuff, and my parents taught me really well, and that's a huge blessing, right? They taught me extremely well. My grandpa taught me well. What do they say? Protestant work ethic. I think that's real.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do with the boys and my wife. So yeah. So no, and then if you get and not because of anything, but if you get a few things right, the big things, like for some reason, I was blessed. Megan and I got married early. My wife. The boys are healthy, and this is nothing that I did. It's just, I've been extremely blessed.
Yep.
And with the big things, I was born in America, just like you, dude. Think about the numbers on that.
No doubt. The odds are not very high.
No, they're horrible. I was born to a great family. The odds on that aren't great.
Yeah.
I met my my wife early. So yeah, dude, there's a lot of stuff that I didn't do that have just landed really, that I've been blessed with.
Yeah. But there's ways to overcome those things if you weren't given those things, right? Like there's ways to do that. Just what you said. I think that's a huge point. Go have a conversation. What's the worst they can say? No, I'm not going to have lunch with you. Like, okay, well, go to the next person and ask them. It's just the repetitions, the number of opportunities that you give yourself. I mean, you're gonna have something that lands, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And the amount of information out there is
true,
incredible.
Yeah,
I mean, you could literally watch every Warren Buffett speech ever.
Yeah,
on YouTube,
it's there.
Instead of watching, I don't know what people watch,
TikTok,
or a Bachelor or something.
Yeah.
So how you spend your time is pretty important.
So as we're getting close to the end, I'm going to ask you your thoughts on like the future of the industry. What are you looking at coming into 2024 as far as interest rates, as far as the market's going? What should people keep an eye on from your perspective?
What kind of people?
That's the investors.
And I don't know. I think rates are important.
Yep.
I think the Fed has got a lot of power. I think Powell had a unanimous vote to raise interest rates, and I think he's just now getting some dissenting votes. I think there was maybe 3. So I do, and we'll find out if the Fed's independent or not, right?
for sure.
If they lower rates, then they're probably not independent because unemployment's still extremely low.
Yep.
And inflation is probably hotter than people think it is. You know, I have heard once, and I really believe it, the higher the rate, the higher the truth.
That's interesting.
You didn't have Sam Brinkman Freud or whatever that clown's name is run around at 7% rates.
No.
You had him at 2.
Yep.
So I mean, I think rates, I'm rooting for them to stay up because if people thought inflation was bad before, if the Fed lowers rates fundamentally, inflation is going to rip, in my opinion. Just housing, people will get priced out of the market again.
For sure.
I do think there's a pretty good supply-demand imbalance for that bell curve housing that you guys do a good job with.
Yeah. And that's kind of why we're looking into some of those new development type of properties where we can start to fill that void in the market.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of opportunity in that. Not to answer your question for you, but
no, I think obviously I think there's a ton of opportunity there. And I do, like, what do you think about, and I'll preface this, so like Wall Street came in and was buying, a bunch of homes, kind of 2021, 22, a little bit 23. We were doing a lot of transactional deals and Wall Street was the end buyer.
Yeah.
That they have pulled way back. And now there's legislation proposed to limit Wall Street's ability to buy single family homes.
So what's your opinion? Well, how do we follow the money on that, right? I mean, why would that be something that they would institute? I think Todd and I have talked about it a little bit. Do they really want to give the power back to the consumers, the people, to be able to have the opportunity to go and buy these properties, and not have it go back to these massive organizations? I'm not convinced that that's ever been a thing or is ever going to be a thing. So, I mean, my read on it is there's something bigger at play, but I don't know necessarily what that means. But I can't see it being something to where they're like, okay, well, yeah, the average consumer's gotten priced out of the market. Let's put the power back in their hands. Let's let them go and buy properties. I mean, the skeptic in me just doesn't think that that's real.
But what if in the end it is their money?
Explain that.
Okay, so people, what's Kiyosaki saying is, rich dad, poor dad, go to school, get a job, fund your 401k, right? Well, these guys that are these fund managers, they're managing a fund. And whose money is in the fund?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, 401ks, it's IRAs, it's CalPERS. So the same folks that complain about, cost of living and housing and Wall Street buying up their property, let's see, whose money is it?
It's their money anyway.
Yeah.
So they're complaining, but also contributing back to it
every monthly.
So why would they take it away? I mean, why would they tell these fund managers they can't buy?
I don't know. That's why I was curious your opinion. I don't know. I mean, I think it's interesting. I don't know who has the authority to tell who what they can buy and how much of it.
Yep. That's a good thought, though. I mean, now I'm going to dive into a rabbit hole and figure that out. I'm going to get into some conspiracy theories on TikTok of why. So thanks. You for reminding.
It's fundamental, right?
Yeah.
Back to my previous comment about unique, the United States being pretty cool in the fact that we do have private property rights.
Yeah.
And laws that protect home ownership. I mean, that's why it's called the American dream, right?
For sure.
But at the same time, it's, we as a people have got to get out of all this consumer debt. I bought airline tickets the other day, and I could have paid for the month.
What? You have them on a payment plan now?
You could, yeah. And so
that was Amazon stuff, like a $12 Amazon toy. You can pay 4 monthly payments of $4.99.
I know, but to build wealth, it probably starts for most people, and not everybody should own. I don't think everybody should own. But for a lot of people, man, it's a great place to build equity.
For sure.
And
Especially when you're not doing other things, right? Like that's a great place to, like you said, start, because there's a lot of people that don't do anything other than contribute to a 401k or some sort of an IRA, and they don't have any other assets. So a home of their own is a great place to start.
Yeah, that's right. And listen, I think, we used to have pensions, and then, the pensions kind of went away, so the 401k came in.
Yep.
But, I would urge people to look at, have you ever tried to figure out the fee structure on a 401k?
No, because I don't have one.
Right. Go get like somebody you know's 401k and read the report and try to figure out the actual fee structure.
What's surprising in there? I'm sure you've done this.
It's very complicated. It's very complicated to see what, who's getting paid what, and what your, you can see what your return is, but how many people are getting paid and what, and how many people's hands are in that pot.
Yeah.
And then, who makes the rules when you can take it out?
Mm-hmm.
And then that there's mandatory distribution. So they tell you when you can take it out, and then they tell you when you have to take it out.
Yep. You have to take it out by X amount. Yeah, dude.
70, I don't know, 70, don't quote me, 74, 75, 70.
Yeah. We could
mandatory
go rabbit hole. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I guess what my point is, people could do themselves a lot of favors by getting educated on money.
Yeah.
And it's really just not that hard.
It's not that hard. I mean, there's a million books out there that'll tell you, or you could watch a 10-minute YouTube video and probably know more than most people in a 10-minute YouTube video.
The professionals make it sound exotic, and it's not.
Well, they want it to sound exotic so that you pay them to manage it for them.
Right. So, yeah, that's right. And then, one other thing too is, Charlie Munger always said the first 100,000 is a rascal. If you can prudently save, earn and save and store $100,000, you've made it through the first layer of the net.
Okay. That's a good point for a lot of people to.
That's right. So start there, right? So accumulate, save, store $100,000.
You don't have to make $1 million. Yeah, you don't have to make $1 million in the next.
And this could be over 5 years. Yeah, accumulate $100,000, and then you've made it through the first layer of the net. Now you have optionality.
Yep. Yeah, because $0 and $50,000 in credit card debt, you have no options. Your option is to pay off your debt. You can't even go into more debt because you're cut off on the debt that you can even take. Oh,
yeah, that's right. That's right. And then I forgot one of these, older kind of self-help guys. He said something that I really liked, and it was, becoming a millionaire is not about the money.
Okay.
It's about the character you build to become a millionaire.
Okay. I like that.
So if you could do it once, you can do it again.
Yeah.
Because it's not about the dollar amount. It's about who you become along the way to be someone who is a good steward of money. Yeah. Money goes where it's appreciated, more or less.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And so, yeah, if you can be a good steward over a little, you'll be given a lot.
That's why a lot of people who are millionaires that lose all their money are able to make it back so quickly.
100%.
Because
it's not about the dollar amount.
Yeah.
And the ledger. That's all it is. It's a dollar amount in a ledger.
Yep. It makes sense. Well, cool, man. So the rapid reaction segment is the last segment we'll do. We'll hit on like 2 of these. So that's just rapid response answers. I'm going to ask you some random questions. And the idea behind the questions is to kind of dig deeper into what kind of maybe motivates Kent, who he looks up to in people. Like what are some cool things that he would like to do and some aspirations that he has. So the first one, if you could get business advice from any historical figure, whether they're dead or whether they're alive, who would it be?
Actually, business advisor, just passed away, Charlie Munger.
Okay.
I would love to have lunch with that guy.
Yeah. All right. Good deal. I love it. We don't dive into these. We don't go deep into it. It's just more of like a rapid. Okay. So second one, this one's more about like your passions and what you enjoy doing outside of business. So if you could start a completely different business, right? Didn't have to make money, but you had unlimited funds. What kind of business would you build?
Oh man, that's a cool question. Actually, we just bought some cows.
Yeah.
And like a herd. And it's a total loser. Like it loses money. It hemorrhages money, and it's was on time. But it's just so fun. It's a family deal. My boys love it. I love it, and my wife loves it. So yeah, to be a rancher, I think this is awesome. And to be a rancher, I guess would be fine.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day we'll have the Eagleburger Ranch and somewhere in Lee Summit or Pleasant Hill.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Good deal. Well, cool, man. That's all we got today. But for everybody listening, we appreciate having you. We'll get this thing posted and on all the socials and on all the onlines, and we're gonna start to build you a social media kit. I know how much you want to be in front of the people. I know how much you want to be the face of Three Arrows Lending and build that to a national, worldwide brand. You just come off as one of those guys that wants to be seen by everybody.
Oh yeah.
No, that's the exact opposite.
It's
Thor does not like to be on camera. Yeah, Kent does not like to be on camera. He asked if he could wear a mask because he doesn't want to be seen.
How about I just pay you to do it,
Yeah, no. Can't do that. I'd still have to use you. But yeah. All right. Well, that's all for today. We'll see you in the next one.